Cleveland Guardians add a former top prospect to the roster at the end of the winter meetings, and the market is moving, and we're waiting for the Guardians to jump on the ride.
Tanner Bagby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in, Guardians fans, to another great half hour of Guardians Talk. We're glad you're here with us. It's our favorite half hour of the day because it's the only daily podcast that talks about the Cleveland Guardians, your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm, of course, Justin Lada, if you're a returning everydayer. But if you're new here, I have been one of the two co-hosts of this show for the last 3 years and counting with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis. I've also spent 18 years covering the Guardians minor league system as a prospect, writer, and editor.
As you mentioned, I'm Jeff Ellis. I've been here since Locked On expanded into baseball. Before that, I was a national writer at Scout and 24/7 focus on prospects and the draft. I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, as well as a shout out to all of our everydayers. There's a teacher from Copley who popped up, which is indeed where I went to school. And I'm going to have to, as I'm always terrible at these things, I didn't tag it, so I have to come back and give her a specific name shout. Oh, there we go. Candence Chupik, who is an everydayer. So who's a she was not there when I taught, or not there when I went, but it was fun to see a Copley teacher in the comments.
Yes, absolutely. I had a lot of good comments today from everybody who appreciated the live stream you did on the draft, and everybody appreciated the fact that we were updating very frequently on Rule 5 happenings. We'll, of course, recap all that today. Later in the show, we're going to debate the latest on the free agent market and where the Guardians stand. Of course, in today's show, we're also going to discuss the Guardians farm system, what the state of it is. We start today talking about the selection of Peyton Pallette in the Rule 5 draft by the Guardians. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be in the middle of the action all season long, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So the Guardians have a new pitcher in the fold. It is former second rounder of the Chicago White Sox from 2021, Peyton Pallette. He had a first round talent going into that draft, but needed Tommy John surgery. That kind of knocked him down the board a little bit. Finally, the White Sox realized he probably should be in the bullpen. So they converted him to the bullpen in 2025. And I don't want to say he took off, but he started showing some signs of improvement. I think the big question is, of course, A, is he going to stick? B, why didn't the White Sox protect him? Which, seems to be a common question. A lot of White Sox prospectors have asked, why wasn't he protected? And why that's so weird. And I think it's also important to pay attention to some of the things the Guardians drafted him for. Like, it's a scouting report wise, it is a high velocity fastball, but it's a poor fastball shape. The curveball is the big draw here. He does have big stuff overall. And Jeff, the thing you always say too is pay attention when any team, the Guardians, go against type. Peyton Pallette does not have good extension in his delivery. It's actually pretty poor. So this kind of goes against type for them. But you and I both were pretty excited about the prospect of getting him in the draft. We thought he would be the most realistic target, considering we thought RJ Pettit would be gone. And there was nobody else on our list I thought would stuck out. We talked about a bunch of relievers, but nobody in the first round that would have been better than Pettit or Pallette to me.
Yeah, so just for anybody who's curious, Peyton Pallette, I had his 39th on my big board in 2022. He missed time with the COVID season. He missed time with injuries. He had Tommy John surgery his junior year. He put up great numbers in the SEC. He's a guy who's, now once he moved to the pen is more sitting mid 90s, has a deep bag of pitches as well. It's not, it's the fastball, the curve, but his secondary offerings are very well thought of in general. My theory, my tinfoil hat time, if you're like, why did the White Sox not protect him? It's
because they're bad at what they do.
Well, they're bad at what they do. There is that. But I think the other side of it is we have seen them kind of go and be more sizist of late. If you look at some of their draft picks, some of the pitchers they've gone for under the current regime, they are size kings. They want size. They want height. Peyton Pallette has always been an undersized guy. Like, he is 6'1" righty. That is a small right-hander. So I think that really stands out. But just getting across it, talked about the importance of FIP. Like no one cares about ERA when you're evaluating. He had a 3.43 FIP. That's great. K minus walk percentage. Like that's a number that is important. 21.9 is strong. His whiff rate was over 36%. Like this is all data that jumps off the page for why this guy, and then the pitches he threw this year out of the pen, 4-seam, curveball, change, and slider. And, he had whiff rates on all of those except for the curveball that were, better than league average. And the curveball is still considered a very good pitch. So it's like, instead of sitting there, I think, there is the subset of fans who are always going to be like, well, clearly something's wrong. Guys, Andrew Vaughn left the White Sox and immediately looked like the guy who was the second overall pick. I would love to have Gavin Sheets on this team, who the White Sox like the White Sox are doing it poorly, not as bad as the Rockies, and they are getting better. There are signs of life there, but this is a guy who just didn't fit. I think because he is a 6'1" right-handed pitcher, and the fastball has the velocity. But as you said, it's not his bread and butter here. So at the end of the day, there is a world, to use my old expression, there's a world where he becomes, Trevor Stephan part 2 and becomes part of that 7th and 8th inning situation they need, not just because they're both former Razorback pitchers. But
ironic,
that if he falls flat on his face, can't do anything right, and they send him back, they spent $100,000.
It's a worthwhile gamble.
It's $100,000, and then I don't know if they eliminated it back in the day. It used to be $50,000, and you got like half of it back if the team sent him back. I haven't looked at
that's
to see if that's still the case. So it's a $50,000 gamble. In baseball, you're never going to get a better deal than a $50,000 gamble. So because I've got my own bias because this is a guy I liked during his college years, but you and I talked about him. Everyone else during the draft talked about him. Everything there looks like this is a guy you should, in pencil, not in ink, but in pencil, put into that pen situation because he has to make the team if they want to keep him. And there's enough there that makes you think that he'll make it.
I think there is enough there to think that he'll make it. I don't think it'll be that hard to keep him. I have a feeling a lot of what Pallette's ability to stay with Cleveland this year, I think, is not really dependent on what he does or doesn't do. Obviously, I mean, they're going to use him probably in mop-up roles. Remember Trevor Stephan's first year? It was a lot of mop-up. He didn't start really earning leverage until later that year.
As I say, eventually he worked his way into it. I think, that's
he
true.
did. But 2021, he was pretty much all mop-up. And then 2022, he became a leverage guy more often than not. And obviously 2023, things fell apart for him. And then he hasn't pitched in 2 seasons.
Health.
But health. But I mean, he was kind of going the wrong direction the year before that.
He was.
Pallette's got to give them something in those situations they use him. Like, he's got the 4-pitch mix. The fastball kind of stinks. I think if Cleveland can help him with the shape of it, which is, not impossible, I think they can look at the delivery and maybe say, okay, because of your arm slot, we're going to tweak how you throw this fastball. Maybe they tweak the grip. Maybe they tweak the release. I'm sure there's things they see they can do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken him because they need to optimize that fastball. He throws hard. You want to get more out of that. And his curveball doesn't play the best off of it because of the how poor the fastball is. It's kind of like, remember Carlos Vargas, like how much we thought, I thought, at least I did. I know you weren't the biggest fan, but the slider, a lot of people considered Carlos Vargas to have a great slider. The problem is his slider didn't play well off his fastball because his fastball was crap. And Pallette's curveball isn't crap, but it does play down. It can play down because of the fastball issues he has. But he's got a 4-pitch mix. He throws a changeup, and none of the pitchers he threw in the minors, the changeup wasn't great, but the changeup or the curveball and the slider he threw in the minors, he didn't throw a lot of sliders. So maybe that's something Cleveland will also work on with him. They didn't get hit. Like, he didn't get hit hard in the minors. Both the curveball and their sliders had great whiff rates. Besides performance, though, Pallette's ability to stay with Cleveland, I think, hinges a lot on how other people in this bullpen do. Like, you've got to set it up so you can protect him early on if you want to keep him and not overexpose him. And that means you have to have other guys you can rely on and use him in those low leverage roles until he gets comfortable and gets his feet wet and proves it, because they don't have a lot of reliability in that pen right now. Like, I mean, Stephen Vogt said we have 4 or 5 guys. Pallette's not a guy you could say is part of that mix. He is in the bullpen, but he's not a guy who's in the circle of trust, as it were. So his ability to stick around, I think, depends a lot on other guys doing their job so he can stay in his role.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I'll say though is with Vogt, if you go out and prove yourself, you'll get that opportunity to be in the circle of trust quicker than I think it was with Tito, and especially with the young guys.
Sure,
I mean, yes, he knew Matt Festa before he got here, but Matt Festa moved to that circle of trust quickly. Even Allard, to a degree, we didn't have that background with. So I think Pallette has a chance to prove himself, and he'll have a chance to grab whatever role he can prove that he can hold down. They'll give him opportunities, and his stuff is better than some of the current guys in the pen right now. So again, it's the best gamble you can make because it's not really a gamble at all.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to make this move considering their needs for the bullpen. All right, we got to talk a little bit about the Guardians minor league Rule 5 pick. Very little. That's a tease right there. And the Guardians, in the Rule 5 draft, you win some, you lose some. The Guardians didn't lose anything or anyone. Is that a good thing? It's time for tin foil hat theory. The World Cup is going to be in America for the first time since 1994. And for the first time, it's also got 48 teams. It's going to be a massive tournament. But let's be honest, tickets, getting those is going to be extremely hard if you're a soccer fan or any fan of a live sporting event. That is why the Game Time app is super clutch. It gives fans like us the advantage back when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you're able to track things like price drops in real time. You get alerts when seats open, and you buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup actually something you can do instead of just watching at home and feeling like you want to be part of the action. Look, it's the holidays. I know some of my packages are actually arriving a little bit late, but you know what's not late is event tickets. I'm sure your significant other wants to go to some theater show in Cleveland, a comedy show, a concert, a sporting event. Game Time can help you do all that. No delays. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. It's going to get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Thanks for being with us here on this episode of Locked On Guardians and making us your first listen today. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And you already live your team every day. It is time to take it up a notch. Go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club and get the Locked On Guardians episodes with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more. $5 a month. Go to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, we don't have a whole lot of information on the Guardians minor league Rule 5 pick. I know a lot of people come to us for this kind of stuff, but when we can't find the info, I'm not saying we're the best researchers in the world, but if we can't find the info, chances are there's not a lot. All I can say about Jack Carey is he's short. He was old for the level last year. He struck some guys out. He didn't walk a ton. He has a 4-pitch mix. He throws a fastball, slider, cutter, and changeup, and the slider's his best secondary, and it's like a low to mid 90s fastball that's kind of unimpressive.
Yeah, it's a low to mid 90s fastball. He did have good K data and walk data, though once he moved up a level, it was not the strongest overall for him. He's an undersized righty who does have some experience closing. He has some minor league saves, pitched at Duke, and I'll say this too, he's 11th round draft pick. We've talked about the 11th round back then was until this past year, was a very important round because teams got a chance to re-rack. Teams targeted guys. It's very specific. There's someone you like, one of your scouts is going to pound the table for. And that's where, where Curry was taken. When I was really trying to dig deep on him, heading into the draft, he was tabbed the 237th best prospect by Baseball America that year. So that's a top 250 prospect. So that's nothing to sneeze at. Typically those guys go a bit higher. He just has not kind of got it all together. And Pittsburgh's been pretty good with pitcher development. Their big name guys have worked out. But here's also a guy who's been in high A and double A and yo-yoing back and forth for 3 years in a row. It's a depth arm with some nice traits, but that's about all I can really say for him. And it's always very telling to me when like the Pirates blogs and the Pirates write-ups barely mention him. Like he's kind of one of those guys who hasn't done enough to garner a lot of attention, but hopefully hopefully he's more Eric Sabrowski and, less Bryce Ball.
Yeah, I did mention on Twitter before the minor league portion started that in the past, Cleveland has found some gems in the minor league portion. They've had, it's disgusting. I'm watching you on video doing disgusting things. I know it. Never mind. Anyway, Eric Sabrowski came in the minor league portion, and they also got Connor Gillespie too, who pitched in a few games for them in the major leagues. So they've gotten, I think the last 3 years they've gotten, or 4 years, they've gotten 2 guys from the minor league portion.
Tyler Brown as well was someone they drafted. But can you guess the last 5 players they lost in the minor league Rule 5 draft?
Oh, I told you off air. I think one of them was Junior Soto, or
nope.
Junior something.
He was not. It was one of the last 5 when I was going through the thing.
Matt Turner.
No, he was just lost outright.
Minor league free agent. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know then.
So when I was going through the thing, I think Junior Soto might have been another guy. I don't know this was good, but going through Baseball Reference, Thomas Ponticelli, who didn't last the year with Colorado. Luis Durango, who spent time in the rookie league with the New York Yankees, who they lost last year.
Luis Durango.
Randy Labout, who pitched across 3 levels, kind of. I mean, I don't know if 1 inning, 2 innings counts, and then really struggled in AAA. Steve Hajar, who I can't remember who we were making fun of, who couldn't find it. Did he? Oh, he ended up retiring. So
he ended up retiring. Yeah,
he never even pitched for Pittsburgh, but
he retired.
And then the last guy that I had found data on was Samuel Vasquez, but those are the last 5.
Oh, reliever. Yeah. Well, okay. So it hasn't been a ton, because I was going to point out the Guardians did not lose anybody in the Rule 5 draft, which is a little unusual. So the Rule 5 draft obviously is meant to make sure prospects don't get quote unquote blocked, even though Jeff says that doesn't exist anymore. But you can't protect everybody. So normally you lose someone in the draft, major league or minor league phase. The minor league phase, by the way, anybody's wondering, it's anybody who hasn't played at the AAA level. And when you draft them, they're gone forever. You don't get them back. The major league portion, they have to stay on the major league roster all year. In the AAA phase, it doesn't matter. So they're just gone. So normally when you get guys drafted in the Rule 5 draft, majors or minors, sometimes that's a sign of a healthy system. I don't know about the minors so much. Or it's a sign you protected the right players. But I would always wonder 2 things. Like, A, what does a team see in a player they're selecting that the team that had the player doesn't see? Or maybe they just know something the other team doesn't know. The White Sox had a ton of guys picked off. The Brewers had a ton of ex-flame out prospects taken. Do you see it as a problem that nobody wanted any Guardians prospects from the unprotected guys from the major league phase, or none of the guys in the minor league phase?
No, because bottom line, like, I talked up Steven Perez, but literally no one else mentioned him. So there's, obviously not enough there. We both kind of like DeLuca, but he doesn't miss enough bats, was essentially the thing. And again, undersized right-hander. So I think it just comes down to they correctly understood, who would be the most likely players to select, who they could risk leaving available. And I mean, not every team gets guys picked every year. Yes, there's often more guys in the AAA phase, but the bottom line is that AAA phase is 99% of picks don't amount to anything more than depth. Like, most teams are only drafting guys because, and I think, like, no offense to Jack Carey or his family, Cleveland took him for depth. They viewed it as, hey, we need another right-handed reliever in AA. We're not sure if any of the younger guys, we don't want to rush anyone. We don't want to convert a starter to that role. We'll go out and get someone who can fill that role. Like, it's about helping to fill out your minor leagues. So, and that's, I'm trying to think of the catcher they took a few years ago where it's like, hey, they need a backup catcher. So they went and got one in the minor league Rule 5 phase.
Oh, the Rays catcher. Yeah.
I think he ended up retiring a few years ago.
Michael Berglund. Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah.
So it's like, when I look at it, it's like sometimes you have guys get selected, sometimes you don't. They have protected so many players from their recent draft classes. There just wasn't a lot of stellar guys to get protected. And it's also the whole situation now where this minor league system is, it continues to stay young. And the guys like Will Brennan, who they cast off, like, they made some hard choices. They moved on from some guys, and then other guys like Nick Enright unfortunately got hurt. So they just didn't. I'm not concerned about it, but it is unusual for them, especially because normally we see them get rated quite a bit. Like they typically lose 2 to 3 guys in the minor league phase, and this year they did not.
Yeah, normally they do. And if I was another team, I'd be interested to see if I could pick off a couple pitchers, whether it's the major league or minor league portion, to see what the Guardians see and try to make it because they're good at that. That's what they do well. So if they can identify something and they don't protect them, maybe their team should be taking a chance on one of those guys. All right, we have not talked about Peyton Pallette and where he lands in our prospect rankings. We have to do that next, as well as the free agent market moving, and the Guardians have yet to get on the train. They usually catch it late, but will they be too late? That's coming up next. NFL Sundays move fast. That means one big play can change the game, make everything feel different. And that's what makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting, because you don't have to just watch the game. You can react to it in real time along with the game, and you can place live bets on FanDuel as all the action unfolds. So whatever drive is going on, whatever big momentum swinging play, all the highlight moments, you can get in on the action. Live betting is best when the game is starting to shift, when you see a receiver or a running back starting to gain a lot of yards, break through a lot of tackles. The defense creates a big turnover. All that's a lot of fun. Cavs, they're finally back in action on Friday against the Wizards, and they're giving up 14.5 points. Holy smokes. Hopefully this break is enough to get them going. You'll be surprised to hear this, but Peyton Pallette did not change the Guardians' odds that much. The Pete Alonso signing changed some things, though. The Guardians are actually now plus 1,100 to win the American League. They were plus 1,200, so might want to check that out real soon. If you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long, visit FanDuel and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Keep up with the Locked On Guardians show all off season long by hitting the bell on YouTube, so you get notifications when new episodes go live, when Jeff's cat pummels him or drinks his disgusting drink.
She's trying to get that eggnog desperately badly.
Yeah, you both have poor taste.
Yeah.
You can get reaction videos, like I posted one when the Guardians drafted Peyton Pallette, and you can auto download on all your audio platforms, so you can take us with you wherever you go. We promise we fit in your car, no matter what size, and we'd love to be with you on your road trips, your trips to the gas station, the grocery store, walking your dog, all that kind of stuff. All right, we didn't get to this in the first segment, but where does Peyton Pallette rank in the Guardians farm system for us? I kind of had to go through my midseason rankings. I had to adjust a few things, but what we both settled on is there is a top 15, top 6, top 15. Yeah, about top 15.
Yeah.
Where we both feel like is pretty clear as far as who belongs in it. Not necessarily order, but who belongs in that. And then after that, it's kind of wishy-washy and kind of the soft middle, as Jeff likes to say. And that's kind of where I am with Peyton Pallette. Like, I've got quite a few more upside guys ahead of him. Most of the guys I have below him are guys with much more risk and guys that are further away from the majors at this point.
Yeah, he is my number 2 reliever right now in system. I have him at 21. That's where he kind of ranks out to me, just because there's some risk with the fastball, and if we're also being honest, it's like relievers don't rate very high. Andrew Walters has a chance to be
closer.
Yeah, and Andrew Walters has a chance to be special. He's one. Alaman also is in my top 30. I'm debating Refsnyder as a 4th member of the top 30 who I think are reliever bound, but at the same time, we got Espino and Oki in there too, who are higher, but I think are more than likely going to end up relievers too. So technically, if you count Espino and Oki as relievers, then he would be my 4th rated reliever in system. Those two still have a chance to start, so that's why they are higher. My list will be antithetical to a lot of people's, just because of some of my concerns, and there's plenty of time for things to shift, change, and trades and all that fun jive. But right now I have him at 21. And what, you and MLB have the same ranking?
I've got him at 18 right now.
You're one spot. So MLB has him at 19 for those who are curious at home.
Yeah, I have guys I have behind him are Uniker Caceres, just because he has such limited time outside of the complex league, even if the data was good. I've got him above guys like Cleo Watson because I just don't believe that the data on his swings and his swing decisions doesn't lead to a guy I think could stick in the majors. And then I have Halpin after him because I think he's the fourth outfielder. I've got Rosario after him because I didn't believe in what he did last year at AA and the AFL. And then I've got guys like Cozart after him. So I've got Pallette there. The guys I was considering him with, like I've got Lavalette ahead of him because of of just more potential for impact. And believe it or not, I've actually got Daniel Espino ahead of him. I think now that Espino, Espino's stuff is just more, even though he's had the long health history, like the stuff is more impact quality than Pallette. Like I could see Espino being a closer. You talk about ranking relievers. If he's not a guy who potentially could be a closer or a high leverage arm, it's hard to rank him. And like Pallette has potential to be a high leverage arm, but we need to see some tweaks there from the coaching staff and some significant progress. We got to see at the major league level too, whereas Espino's stuff has a chance to be extremely special as long as he's healthy. And I do have Walters ahead of him too. I also had Dean Curley just ahead of him. I'm not going to reveal my top 12, but my top 12.
Curley is literally one spot ahead of him on my list.
Yeah. So I have Curley ahead of him too, but I'm not going to reveal my top 12. We'll do that in a future episode. But right now, I feel pretty strongly about that grouping, I will say. But Pallette for me is 18.
Maybe I should retire the squishy middle and refer to it as the peanut butter popper, right? Isn't that because it's squishy in the middle? If you get the reference, of course, comment below. I think most would get that. But yeah, they added a top 30 prospect almost universally for $100,000. You're not going to get.
It's a big swing. Like a lot of times, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I mean, in the Rule 5 draft, you can always add guys that have a chance to stick. Like you can add the Braves tried to add Christian Cairo last year. He didn't stick. That's a safe, quote unquote, safe pick, right? Because that's just a spot in your bench. The Guardians at least went for a guy who has the ability to become an impact big leaguer. Like they at least swung big, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. They got a guy who could turn it into a significant piece for him this year. And what is my constant comment on this show? It's like no one ever lost their job by counting on the White Sox having made a mistake. It's been a constant in baseball for about a decade now. And you might as well lean into. I've been wanting them to lean into it even more, and we finally see that. I think I'm blanking on who it was that the Brewers took was maybe my favorite pick because they drafted someone who has never pitched. Like he has been hurt since he was drafted. Is it like Cole Phillips maybe who's been hurt since 2022? And it's like they're taking a gamble on a guy, which again in the minor league section, you and I debated like would someone take Justin Campbell? Like is there someone who liked him enough to just be like, okay. But it's always interesting. Every year we get to see a little bit more with it. The other thing I want to point out, because I just realized we didn't mention it, is there were 13 total selections in case you missed it. First pick was RJ Pettit, who you and I talked about on the show. Went to the Rockies, and of those 13 total selections, 12 pitchers. The only hitter was Daniel Susac, who, I mean, to me, that's an embarrassing pick if you're Oakland, because you took that guy in the first half of the first round. You have open spots on your. Well,
they traded with San Francisco.
They traded. Wait, no, I thought he was still with Oakland, wasn't he? Daniel Susac
got traded to. Well, yeah, he got traded to. Oh, you mean
no? He was drafted by Oakland.
Draft. Yeah, he was traded to the Giants after.
Oh, was he?
But
I was just saying, like,
he's a Giant now.
Yeah, the reason it's embarrassing to me is like, you took a guy in the top 20 picks of the draft, and 4 years later, you didn't even think he was worth rostering. Like, that's really unusual to see. So he was the only hitter taken. Gives like a solid backup type, just like his older brother. But you were certainly hoping for more than that when you drafted him. That was one of the more interesting picks in that regard. But yeah, Cleveland on paper looks better today than they did yesterday. I understand it is not what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see a bat or an outfielder. But I think we saw today the cost of outfielders is more expensive than a lot of people thought.
Yeah, so Mike Yastrzemski, as we wrap up this episode, is off the board. 2 years, $23 million to Atlanta. Pete Alonso's gone. Kyle Schwarber's gone. The big fish that are left are Tucker and Bellinger. Obviously, Cleveland's not playing there. And then the big pitcher left is Framber Valdez.
I mean, you also got Bregman and Bo
There's
Bichette,
Bregman,
I would say, are
yes.
big fish. So you got about four
That's
big
true. That's
fish.
true. So the Guardians probably are not going to make a move for a hitter until those guys are off the board. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
They're going to wait for things to settle and see like
they are.
who's out there.
And that could prove good for them because they could end up with a good deal on a guy like an Austin Hayes or a Rob Refsnyder. And, you and I believed that Rob Refsnyder was going to be unsignable because he thought he'd go back to Boston. But what I've seen from the Boston beat writers this week is that there are a lot of teams interested in him, which may not be good for the Guardians, but I don't think it's a slam dunk he goes back to Boston because there's a lot in play, and I've seen them talk about how much they like. Yeah, and I saw a lot of Boston talking about like how much they like Nate Eaton and how well he played, and they called him up for the minors, and I thought he could be a piece for them next year. So Refsnyder, I don't know if he's in play for the Guardians, but like he sounds like not a slam dunk to go back to the Red Sox like you and I originally thought. So hopefully the Guardians are putting some feelers out there. I'm going to talk more about free agency tomorrow on my show, but I don't know. I know they're going to wait to try to make a deal, but I hope they don't wait too long because I do think they need to add a bat to free agency somehow or trade. I just wonder how the trades. I thought for sure this week we'd see like Brendan Donovan traded, and maybe it'll happen. There's still a couple days left in the week. I just thought maybe winter meetings might be a time it happens, but maybe they'll wait.
I think it gets easier now.
Yeah.
Trade. Often we have a hold on trades until the Rule 5 is done because some of the BC places are guys who are Rule 5.
That's true.
Like, instead of being a player to be named later, now you can put those deals together. Or maybe there's someone you were like who you were afraid was going to be taken. I'll say this for when I come back and do my show next week. I have a 3-team trade I'm going to bring up that
the one you texted me.
Justin today. Yeah. So I've got kind of an interesting idea for that. So we're going to both be talking trades over the next 2 shows, as well as news, everything else that's developing. So make sure you are tuning in next week. We do drop to 3 episodes a week. So
yeah, so we get you update on that. So I'll be solo with you tomorrow on Friday, and then Jeff and I will be together on Mondays to wrap up whatever happens on the weekend. And then during the rest of that week, we'll each have a solo show. So we'll have 3 shows. Typically, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, unless there is big news to report or react to, in which case we will give you a bonus episode because we'll be on together. But if not, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday together, and then Wednesday, Friday. It'll be some combination of us solo, all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow, I am going to talk about free agency. We'll do trade talk Thursday because we didn't get a chance to do it. So we'll do it on a Friday. Where things stand with trades. We'll talk about the upside and the downside of the Guardians' approach to free agency and their strategy to the ABS challenge system. So lots to talk about tomorrow.
Yep. So thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. Do all your little parts. Random comments below are always appreciated. And go Guardians, go.